to my guy, Propaganda & Co. He made a really good video on this if you guys want to go through. Let me show you the part. Let's see here.
Open source intelligence has now confirmed that Israel only successfully destroyed 20 launchers, amounting to Iraqi Kurdistan. This clear.
Now, a lot of the stuff that I've been telling you guys about, he does a good job of summarizing this stuff here for you. Let's see here. Debunking the myths and the propaganda. Let me see here.
Welcome to part 2 of our analysis of the 12-day Iran-Israel war. In the previous video, we addressed Israel's propaganda claims. Now, we will address Iran's claims. Iran claimed
this was a very balanced video. He covered the propaganda on both sides.
That they had shot down at least 3 F-35s.
And we heard about that as well, guys. This got debunked. They did not shoot down 3 F-35s. I know True Teller was saying that, but it's not true. We verified it's not true.
But this isn't an issue of money. This is an issue of production. And the U.S. simply rising lion. But the lion did not rise. The people did not overthrow the government. Russia has given the S-400 air defense systems to Turkey and Saudi Arabia, but does not give it to Iran, which has provided it with drone assistance in the war. But it's unclear if they will do it fast enough. Even if they do, mastering the operation of advanced air defense systems and fighter jets could take up to a decade. Iran doesn't have this sort of time, but Israel doesn't either. There is no way for the US to advance the production of THAAD missiles, so it's likely both sides will be unable to improve their air defenses before the next round of the ability to turn their losses into lessons. The problem, however, is of 2 weeks, and even though they failed to topple the government,
100 years, in one day we lost 9 of our
has never experienced before to topple the government and took major blows.
All right, here's some of the damage you guys are going to see
from Iran, the likes of which Israel has never experienced before.
That was the biggest hit, the biggest disaster that the city ever had in nearly 100 years. In one day, we lost 9 of our people, 200 was injured, and more than 2,000, more than 1% of our population are now homeless. They are living at hotels, but we are not looking at yesterday, we're looking at the tomorrow.
Israel's aura of invincibility has been shaken.
They were still the ones who decided when it would start and when it would end. This demonstrates a level of control that Iran simply doesn't have. And we haven't even discussed whether or not Trump successfully destroyed their nuclear program. That's a topic for another video. The thing to understand now, however, is that this war is far from over. This ceasefire is merely a pause in hostilities as both sides try to attacks slowed down and were reduced to a few dozen
here we go.
missiles.
Okay.
Israel claimed that this was evidence after the ceasefire to shop for more equipment. We'll explore this later on in the video. Finally, claim 3, Iran had the advantage during the war. This is partly true. You see, Israel's attack failed to decapitate Iranian leadership or produce regime change, and it failed to eliminate Iran's ability to retaliate. So Iran was able to respond decisively, pummeling Israel's air defenses for 12 days straight. At first, Iran pelted Israel's air defenses with hundreds of missiles. Then, however, their attacks slowed down and were reduced.
And you guys remember this. A lot of pro-Zionist accounts were saying, oh, look, they're not shooting as many missiles. Look, they counted them on the days, right?
To a few dozen missiles. Israel claimed that this was evidence of Iran running out of missiles and launchers.
This fucking retard on Twitter, Saul Sadka, hardcore fucking Zio.
But it was actually the opposite. Israel had been running out of air defense missiles, specifically the Terminal High Altitude Air Defense Missile, otherwise known as the THAAD.
And I was explaining this to you guys. The THAAD, by the way, is ours. We gave it to these fucking dickheads. Just the battery itself cost $1 billion. Yeah, guys, I've explained it to you guys that it cost them significantly more money to defend themselves than it did for Iran to attack them. So it was a war of attrition. And that is how Iran had the advantage on this.
In a single day, Iran forced Israel to exhaust 39 THAAD missiles in just one attack. Israel deployed at least 39 THAAD interceptor missiles in one of the attack waves to counter Iranian missile strikes. This figure is based on an analysis of videos published by Jordanian photographer Zaid al-Abadi, using geolocation techniques and assessments of missile stage ignition timing. The identified interceptors include 34 Arrow 3 interceptors, 9 Arrow 2 interceptors, and 39 US THAAD interceptors. The exact cost of Arrow missiles has not been officially disclosed, but estimates place them at around $4 to $5 million per missile. In comparison, each THAAD missile is estimated to cost around $12.8 million, meaning that the value of the THAAD missiles alone used in this one wave from Iran exceeded $498 million. A striking detail is that the United States had ordered only 41 THAAD missiles over the last 3 years, some of which were intended for export customers. This highlights how quickly interceptor stockpiles can be depleted even in a short-term war. So this is very significant.
Here, I'll drop the link for you guys, by the way. He drops so much information. This is a great video, by the way, for you guys. He covers both the lies and the propaganda on both sides, both on the Israeli and on the Iran side. It was a very balanced video, extremely balanced. So feel free to go check out that video. I did an interview with him a couple of days ago, like last week as well.
Yes.
They're based in Tampa.
The missiles are expensive, but Israel has demonstrated that they have the money and the willingness to spend it.
I wonder how they have the money. Well, this goes right back to what we're talking about with fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? The reality is, the reason why they have the money is because we give them the money. Now, I know what we talked about with AOC said, oh, well, I don't need to go. We don't, I vote against this bill because I don't want to pay for weapons, but I'm going to pay for Israel to defend itself. But what AOC doesn't realize, because she's a fucking retard, is the reason why Israel can act so aggressively is because they have these interceptor missiles where they know they're going to get retaliation. So it wasn't until Iran hit them that they got a fucking smack of reality and realized, oh shit, we can be touched. Wow. They actually got missiles through, despite the fact that the United Kingdom, France, Jordan, Egypt, all these countries were fucking assisting them and helping them shoot missiles down. They still were getting hit. You need to get punched sometimes to understand that you're vulnerable. Okay? And weakening their defenses is going to also weaken their attacks, AOC. If you limit their ability to defend themselves, you inevitably limit their ability to attack others. Because now the threat of a response becomes very fucking real. Again, I've told you guys this before and I'll say it again. Both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party are cucks for the Zionist lobby. Republicans will openly suck Israeli cock, while Democrats do it in a closet somewhere. And this is a perfect fucking personification of what I mean by this. Oh, well, there's a genocide going on. This is really bad. She has to say that because that's her base. Most Democrats are correct when it comes to Israel-Palestine. Right? But she also understands that she's a politician in Congress, so she has to play the fucking Zionist game. She understands that she still has to she has to still play with the Israel lobby. So she's only kind of halfway limiting the genocide. So yeah, dude. This is a perfect example of like talking out both sides of your mouth and politicians being politicians, what AOC is doing here. You need to hurt them from their ability to defend themselves as well as their ability to attack others. You're going to think twice about hitting someone if you know that you're going to get hit back and it's going to cause damage. So I think what Marjorie Taylor Greene did by limiting their defense a little bit will actually make them realize that you're not impenetrable. And guess what? Last month they were getting hit by the fucking Iranians so hard. That's going to sting. But I will admit that it's a probably overzealous bill. And this is why everyone in Congress voted against it, because they saw the damage that Iran did. They saw the damage. I showed you guys the damage. I'm one of the few YouTubers that showed you guys the damage. Everybody else was, oh, yeah, no. The Israelis are defending themselves great, like they're shooting down all the missiles. That's a fucking lie, bro. Huge fucking lie. Let me see here in this video where he shows it.
But this isn't an issue of money. This is an issue of production. And the US simply cannot produce enough air defense missiles for Israel to use.
That's another reason why they had to get that ceasefire going immediately.
In an extended war, especially with the Ukraine war still raging. And this is consistent with Netanyahu's stated time frame for the war. When Israel first launched their attack, Netanyahu informed the public that this would be a 2-week operation. This is because he believed that Israel would either topple the government or run out of air defenses. As we now know, Israel did indeed run low on their air defense stockpile. As a result, Iran
And I told you guys that when it was happening.
was able to keep penetrating Israel's airspace and pummel targets. This is why Iran reduced their missile waves. They had exhausted Israel's air defenses and did not need to keep overwhelming their systems. So they decided instead to reduce their missile waves for an extended war of attrition that could last for months. On top of that, Iran had begun to gain control over the Mossad operatives working inside Iran. More arrests meant fewer espionage attacks, which would reduce Israel's ability to cause havoc. And Iranian air defenses were now beginning to take out more and more Israeli drones. So for this reason, Iran had actually gained the advantage. And Israeli media confirms this. In reporting on why Israel had agreed to a ceasefire, quote, the military and political leadership agreed ahead of time to set achievable goals for the war. 12 days in, the IDF reported that those goals had been attained and that Israel's position would weaken and Iran's strengthen if the war continued. Now this quote is very telling. If Israel had completely destroyed Iran's air defenses, fully established air superiority, destroyed Iran's missile stockpile and missile launchers, why would there be any assessment that Iran could gain the advantage? The answer is simple. It's because none of those claims were true. So because of Israel's failures, Iran did actually have an advantage.
Trump did not force Israel to stop the war. The Israelis asked us to stop the war. The Israelis were in deep trouble. The Iranian ballistic missiles were pounding Tel Aviv and Haifa and other cities and military installations around the country. And at the same time, the Israelis were running out of defensive missiles, missiles that could shoot down those incoming Iranian ballistic and cruise missiles. So the Israelis were in trouble, and they wanted us to
And they were getting pummeled despite censoring journalists.
put an end to the war.
However, it clearly wasn't much of an advantage because Iran agreed to a ceasefire and cut the war short. So we've taken a while to get here, but it's now time to discuss who won, who lost, and what might happen next. To determine who won, we need to define victory. And in this case, victory
There we go, baby. You got to define victory first. Victory for Israel was regime change.
is a political term, as there was no decisive military victory achieved by either side. Israel set out to topple the government. Their operation was titled Rising Lion, but the lion did not rise. The people did not overthrow the government, they didn't even try, and the government did not collapse. In fact, the government was strengthened by the rally around the flag effect. So, Israel failed to achieve their objective.
And the rally around the flag effect, guys, is a social phenomenon where if you attack a country, even if they are divided, they will unite to attack their attacker, to retaliate against their attacker. So, and that's effectively what happened with Iran. Despite the fact that they had serious division within their government, they hate the Israelis more than their government. So, backfired.
And therefore lost. And by not losing, Iran won. But this isn't real.
I think anyone will have a brain. That's their assessment. When these Zionists try to sit there and tell me that Israel won, I'm like, you're a retard. No, they didn't. You're the one that attacked. You tried to get a regime change and you failed.
Really a victory.
This is what I was debating Elad on Tim Pool.
Iran can celebrate. Their air defenses and intelligence services were completely humiliated on day one of the war. They allowed thousands of Mossad agents to roam unchecked throughout the country and couldn't protect their most valuable human assets in the form of IRGC officials and nuclear scientists. This is a very serious shortcoming. In response, Iran immediately sent envoys to both Russia and China. In Russia, Iran was seeking—
This is important, guys. Iran is trying to revamp their Air Force.
to expedite the transfer.
Pay attention to this, man. Yo, and also, guys, follow my guy, Propaganda & Co. Let's get him to 100,000. This is a really good channel. People might say, oh, is it biased? No, I mean, he's talking about how he made a 40-minute video covering both sides and covering how what Iran took W's on and what Israel took W's on, and what both the countries took L's on.
Of S-400 air defense systems and Sukhoi fighter jets to modernize their air force.
And these Sukhoi fighter jets, if I'm not mistaken, I think Pakistan used them and did pretty damn good with them when they were having that little conflict with India, and it impressed the Iranians.
A former speaker in Iran's parliament, Ali Motahari, took to X to vent frustrations about Russia's reluctance to give them the sophisticated S-400 defense system.
Oh, my bad. There were fighter jets that the Chinese have that the Iranians want. I think it's going to come up in the video.
Russia has given the S-400 air defense systems to Turkey and Saudi Arabia, but does not give it to Iran, which has provided it with drone assistance in the war with Ukraine, because it might be used against Israel. Very serious tension. By sending envoys to Russia and having political officials vent frustrations like this, Iran exposes the truth about their vulnerable air defenses. As a result, Iran also
Mossad was able to take them out very easily.
Visited China to explore the possibility of purchasing their defense equipment, including the J-class fighter jet, which
there you go.
Impressed the world recently as the Pakistani Air Force used them to down several Indian fighter jets. China and Russia have both
the Jeep battle
expressed a desire to assist Iran, but it's unclear if they will do it fast enough. Even if they do, mastering the operation of advanced air defense systems and fighter jets could take up to a decade. Iran doesn't have this sort of time, but Israel doesn't either. There is no way.
Right now, this ceasefire, guys, is being used by both sides to rearm, recoup, recover, and then fight again.
For the US to advance the production of THAAD missiles, so it's likely both sides will be unable to improve their air defenses before the next round of warfare. Now here's the thing, if you're gonna lose, don't lose completely. Live to fight another day. Iran survived this encounter, and now they have the ability to turn their losses into lessons. The problem, however, is that Israel...
Yeah, they got a lot of intel from this. And keep in mind, guys, Israel blew their fucking load because they had Mossad assets behind enemy lines. A lot of them got captured or had to leave. So now the element of surprise is gone, and all their assets they had in place for months, if not years, are pretty much compromised. And they didn't get the goal. That's a big reason why I think this was such an L, is because Israel invested an enormous amount of time, weapons, and personnel into conducting this operation behind enemy lines, and they couldn't get the regime change.
Still controls the pace and tempo of this conflict. Israel is the one who decided to carry out the war. They set a time frame for themselves of 2 weeks, and even though they failed to topple the government and took major blows from Iran, the likes of which Israel has never experienced before.
That was the biggest hit, the biggest disaster that the city ever had in nearly 100 years. In one day, we lost 9.
Yeah, this is the hardest Israel's ever been hit since their creation.
Of our people, 200 was injured, and more than 2,000, more than 1% of our population are now homeless. They are living at hotels, but we are not looking at yesterday, we're looking at the tomorrow.
Israel's aura of invincibility has been shaken.
They were still the ones who decided when it would start and when it would end. This demonstrates a level of control that Iran simply doesn't have. And we haven't even discussed whether or not
the Iranians don't want war.
Trump successfully destroyed their nuclear program. That's a topic for another video. The thing to understand now, however, is that this war is far from over. This ceasefire is merely a pause in hostilities as both sides try to quickly prepare for the next round, make improvements in how they can carry out their own strikes, and find creative ways to improve their defenses. It's impossible to predict who will come out on top, but what we can expect is that Israel and the US will be the ones to decide when the next battle starts.
That's for sure. I'm trying to find the part here, guys, for